Come on, Annie. Let's go to the movies.
This is the Cinereelists, episode 557. My name is Kyle.
My name is James.
And my name is Zach.
And we're here to talk about movies, movie lists, and movie obsession for the next hour or so. Normally, I would say, hey, how you guys doing? But we've already recorded like a Patreon. So I kind of feel like I don't need to talk to you guys much anymore.
You're done with us already?
I'm not done, but I think that we can skip the pleasantries.
Okay.
We got that out of our system.
Screw you too, Kyle.
Is there? What's the
Zach,
opposite
how
of
are you doing,
pleasantries? I'm great, Kyle. Thanks for
Okay,
asking.
good. I'm
What's
good,
the opposite of pleasantries?
Unpleasantries?
Cattiness.
Is it like being unpleasant, or is it just like getting to the meat of the issue, like skipping the small talk and doing the large talk?
Yeah, I would say
Standoffish?
that there has to be there has to be a word for it, right? Right. Let's. I mean, people say let's skip the pleasantries.
Coldness?
I would say it's a coldness, because you're not being
Gosh.
rude. You're just like, all right, we don't need to do this. Let's get to the good stuff.
Let's get right to the good stuff.
Let's get to the meat of it. How about that?
That's what it means that's what pleasantries mean?
No, pleasantries is the opposite. Pleasantries means like let's nibble on chew the fat for a while.
Okay.
Where get to the meat of it means like let's just jump right in.
What if your favorite
But
part
chew the
is
fat
the
is like literally
pleasantries?
a meat metaphor.
No, but chew the fat. Yes, they're both meat metaphors. However, chew the fat to me means like just kind of, shooting the crap. Like let's chew
I
the
agree,
fat
but
for a while.
No, I agree. But if you're already chewing the fat, it doesn't make much sense. Like, oh, let's get to the meat.
I agree that they seem like they mean the same thing. However, to me, chew the fat and get to the meat of it are polar opposites in meaning.
Is the fat considered meat, or is that not meat?
It's
Is
not
meat only the muscle?
Fat is not meat.
Technically, fat is not meat, but a lot of like good meat has marbling with fats in it.
Could you legitimately say I don't eat meat, but still eat like the fat off of a steak?
If you're saying like yeah, I guess so, because meat and fat are different things. So you could.
Wait, is that for sure? You guys are saying that so confidently. Meat and fat are different things.
They're different makeups. Yeah.
They are. Are you just equating meat and muscle and like using them interchangeably?
Yes, I'm
Or
not just
can-
equating them, but I'm saying like what you eat of an animal is mostly some sort of muscle. Like there is
Can't-
good fat in it to give it some flavor
What if
and some
what
tenderness.
if we defined meat as the fat plus the muscle? Wouldn't that change the whole deal? Like why are you so confident that the meat only refers to the muscly part?
Zach, we've already done Patreon.
I was going to say, if you've ever
Okay, good
wondered
point.
what a Patreon episode sounds like, just re-listen to the last 4 minutes of this episode.
This is Patreon right
I
here.
was
What is
asking.
meat? What is muscle? Is salt food? All these great questions can be answered in Patreon.
Yeah, thank you for listening to this episode 557. We appreciate you clicking play on the podcast, whether on YouTube or in your favorite podcast app. That's right. This podcast is on YouTube. Go to YouTube, search Cinereelists, find us there, click subscribe, and watch us while you listen to us. You could also follow us on Patreon, patreon.com/Cinereelists. Get intense world-changing debates like you just heard on a weekly basis, mostly weekly basis. Also, the Patreon episode that we recorded this week was nailing down the 3 Christmas movies we're going to watch for this year's Christmas episode. If you want to get ahead of the game and watch the Christmas movies that we're going to watch this year, you'll want to watch Spirited on Apple Plus, and you'll want to track down 1998's I'll Be Home for Christmas, starring Jonathan Taylor Thomas and Jessica Biel. And you'll also want to track down 2016's Tree Man, which is a Christmas set documentary.
Yeah. I'll Be Home for Christmas is on Disney Plus.
Perfect.
Oh, excellent.
You won't have
Yeah.
to look too hard for that one then.
and Tree Man's on Vudu.
Okay.
For a cost or streaming for free?
Cost.
For $2.99
for rental. Oh, right.
Nice. So yeah, we'll be releasing that in 2 or 3 weeks. So you got a couple weeks to do that. But if you're just watching Christmas movies and you want a reason to watch a Christmas movie, there's a reason. Watch it. Hear us talk about it in a few weeks. You can also leave us an Apple Podcast review on Apple Podcasts. We appreciate that. 5 stars only. You could also send us an email to heyguys@cinereelists.com, REEL with an S on the end. Send a comment, a question, a list suggestion, a movie suggestion. The emails are kind of stacking up. I think maybe I'm just going to make an executive decision here and say the next episode we'll do some emails before we talk movie of the week next week. So if you have a burning question or you need to tell us something or you want us to talk about something specific, send an email this week. We'll talk about it next week. Anything else we need to go over, guys, before we jump into Triangle of Sadness?
I just
Nope.
didn't realize that James had a majority share of Cinereelists here.
Well, I do.
I thought it was 33, 33, 33, but apparently James got 51, and Zach and I just
Well,
had
that leaves
table
one.
scraps
That
left
leaves
over.
1%, and I got 34%. So it's just how it shakes out. I don't know what to tell
How
you.
it shakes out. Because you do all the back end work, you get an extra percent.
Well, I mean, I didn't say it. You said it. But
Oh, I just hit record and talk for a couple hours, and then magically a podcast happens.
This is true. All right. Let's jump into Triangle of Sadness right after this clip.
I have a question. I'm sorry. Yesterday, I was up on deck.
Yes.
And it was so beautiful. Everything was fantastic. But then I saw the sails.
The sails.
The sails, yes.
Oh.
Yeah. And they were dirt gray.
Hmm.
Do you think it's possible to wash them?
Well, I don't think that's possible, ma'am, because this is a motorized vessel,
Yeah.
so we don't have any sails.
Maybe it was the sun deck roof?
What? Are you sure?
I'm sure.
That was Triangle of Sadness, a 2022 internationally co-produced satirical black comedy starring Harris Dickinson, Charles B. Dean, Dolly DeLeon, Zlatko Burek, Henrik Dorson, Vicky Berlin, Woody Harrelson, and directed by Ruben Östlund. The official IMDb plot synopsis for Triangle of Sadness is: a fashion model celebrity couple join an eventful cruise for the super rich. What did you guys think of Triangle of Sadness? I will say I saw this like 3 weeks ago, and surprisingly, I remember most of it.
Yeah, actually, James, I kind of want to hear what you think, because you were the one who sort of spoke very highly of this movie to us.
Sure. I say surprisingly because most movies that I saw 3 weeks ago, like the details of them have gone for sure.
Yeah.
But this one definitely stuck with me. I love Triangle of Sadness. Like, it is a very well-made movie, in my opinion. I think it has a goal. It accomplishes that goal. Maybe it has several goals. One, illustrate the power system that is inherent in our society, and maybe it has several goals. That also skewer those that currently have the power, but also illustrate how quickly things can change. Like how fragile the power system as it sits right now really truly is. And also make you laugh here and there, I would say. Those are its goals. And I feel like for the most part, it hit all of those like full home run for me. I do think like people who don't like maybe dark comedies or who have an intense objection to like potty humor or bodily fluids
Yeah, it
will
goes
not
beyond
like this.
potty humor for sure.
Sure. Well, I mean, there's potty humor and also lots of bodily fluids. Maybe more
Lots.
bodily fluids than I've ever seen in a movie ever. And there's a reason for it. It's not just there to be crass, I think, but it is crass in that it's not delicate with those things at all. And I think that's kind of what I liked about it, amongst other things, is that's just one example of how it kind of just lays things out and does not pull any punches towards any class or group of society, but especially those who might think they are better than others because they have more money. And so I liked pretty much all of it. I do have some complaints, but I'm curious to hear an overview from you guys.
Yeah, James, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with this one. I agree more or less with what you have to say. I thought this accomplished everything it needed to accomplish. It's definitely not subtle in its message and its methodology of getting that message across, but it's well shot, it's well directed. It is funny, and it makes its point quite clearly. It's a movie where I found it clever at first, like the first, third of it. I'm like, oh, okay, like this is a clever satire, and aren't these juxtapositions interesting? And you're kind of following this model Instagram or influence couple as they're sort of immersed in this world. And then there's a pivotal moment in the middle where the movie kind of shows its full cards. And that moment completely had me on board.
Mhm.
And I would say for my theater, most people were on board at that point too. Like there was hooting and hollering in my theater, and I was on the younger end of the people in the theater for this movie. So the boomers were really enjoying that whole sequence. And then it also went to a place towards the end I was not expecting,
Mhm.
which I thought was clever too. It sort of kept the messaging going while being able to change it and not just give me the same thing over and over again. And I appreciate where it went in the third act of this movie.
Yeah, it's definitely a movie that has 3 distinct acts to it. The first one is kind of a tumultuous relationship between this couple of where both of them are models. The middle one takes place on a luxury yacht, and it's kind of like an upstairs, downstairs kind of situation on the yacht.
Mhm.
And then the third one takes place somewhere else. And I really, really enjoyed this movie. It was great. It's a surrealist kind of satire, right? And it absolutely, James, I'm not sure you have, but Kyle, I think that you've seen some Louis Buñuel, the
Definitely.
Mexican director.
Yep.
This is 100% in his vein. It's like a modern rendition of a Buñuel kind of satire.
Yeah.
And I'm all for that. And if you enjoyed this and you want more, the closest thing I can tell you to watch is Buñuel movies.
And I'm sure those movies we mentioned later.
Yeah,
in this,
guaranteed.
but yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. But it's a movie that I think is it's very forward with its message, but then the message becomes more nuanced, I think, in the third act, which I appreciate, right? This is not just let's skewer the rich and champion the proletariat. It's not that kind of movie, even if it seems like that at first. There's more it's talking about, and I think that it's interesting. So yeah, there's a lot to talk about. Some of it's going to be spoilers, but I enjoyed it. I'm glad I watched it.
This movie is not Don't Look Up, where Don't Look Up had one thing to say and said it over and over again for 2.5 hours. Like, this definitely has a point of view, but like you said, Zach, it gives you more aspects of that point of view throughout the movie.
It kind of keeps reapplying that point of view to like to surprising people.
Yep.
And then you're like, oh, it's pretty much the same no matter what the situation. It's just the people, the deck chairs shuffle here and there.
Yeah.
And I like that about it. I also thought it was just kind of delightfully absurd at times. Specifically the middle section, but there's also just things at the beginning. When the movie opens and you've got those male models all shirtless and they're doing like different looks into the camera, like somebody's telling them like, okay, now do depressed, now do happy, smile, and they're just going back and forth, and I was like, this is ridiculous. And the movie just goes from there for sure.
Why would you guys say this is called Triangle of Sadness?
Well,
I mean, they literally say it in
at the beginning of the
but...
movie.
Well, they say what a Triangle of Sadness is, but I'm asking, why do you think this movie is called that?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't know if they just like didn't know what to call the movie and they thought that was a cool phrase that's in the movie. Because I'm not quite sure how to connect the definition of Triangle of Sadness at the beginning of this movie to the rest of, unless it has to do with like eyes or looking up. I mean, it has to do with point of view or something like that. James, do you have an idea, or Zach?
I certainly think you're not wrong, and I don't know the right answer for sure, but I also think it's that people who have a lot of money, I've heard people who have a lot of money say that money doesn't bring happiness. And since the movie is about wealth or power type of thing, I think that's certainly a piece of why there's a sadness in there. There's also a boat out in the ocean, the Bermuda Triangle. I think it kind of fits some level. That's not a spoiler, but it fits on some level as far as that's concerned. And then you've got like, maybe that is an actual modeling term that people would know if they were in that industry. I don't know if it is or not, but they certainly pretend like it is in this movie. Do you have a theory, Zach?
My theory, and it's different than yours, but it's still not very fleshed out. But it's that he said like you can see wrinkles here, and that maybe he should get Botox. So is the idea of like he should change himself to fit a certain idea of beauty, and like hide who he really is behind, this fake Botox, kind of something like that. But the movie's not necessarily about like beauty so much as it is at like the corrupting nature of power and wealth.
Yeah, because the male model is kind of an outsider. Like he talks about how his girlfriend makes more money and she's the influencer and she's the reason why. I mean, he's still like beautiful in that aspect, but he's definitely not part of the upper class as much as she's starting to break into it.
Yeah, but there's definitely something going on with him that we will go into in spoilers that I think applies there to the Botox conversation. I don't know how to say it without kind of spoiling things.
We'll save for spoilers then.
Yeah,
Sure.
so I don't know, but I'm glad that it touched on it at the beginning and then put it off, so we didn't have to wonder the whole movie, what are we talking about? We could just go into it, but I don't know. Maybe he I think Kyle joked last week, maybe he's just doing his Shapes trilogy.
Yeah, that's right.
Because he did the square already.
The circle?
Oh, the circle, yeah.
Oh, no, I thought he did the square.
I thought it was the square.
Yeah.
Oh, that is a square. The circle is that other one with Jesse Eisenberg, right? No, not Jesse Eisenberg.
I think the circle is a reality show on Netflix.
It is, but there was another movie with what's his name from
Tom Hanks.
From Big, called The Circle, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that was like a social media company or something like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
I don't think you mentioned that Woody Harrelson's in this movie.
He is, and that's pretty much my only complaint. Not that Woody Harrelson was in it, just that some of the reading of things over the ship intercom was just like, I kind of felt like you could have had half of what was there, and it would have been the same
with what he was doing.
with
In
what
that
he
middle
was
section.
doing with the Russian in that section. Yeah,
Okay.
I was just kind
Oh,
of like,
you just
I got
didn't
it.
like that?
I understood it. You know what I mean? And it felt like it dragged slightly, but overall, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's not.
That was one of those moments where they were hitting over the head a little stronger with the messaging.
In the third act too, I also felt like the third act probably could have been slightly shorter. Same movie.
I thought the first act dragged the most for me. Like it took a little while to get going.
Sure.
So maybe if I had a complaint, this whole movie just felt a little too long. Like I think they could have trimmed the fat and gotten to the meat. Bam. A little faster on this movie. See, trim the fat, right? That's another one right there. Or bringing it back, guys.
By the
Sure.
way, since you brought it back, I looked it up on Britannica.com.
No, it's the British elitists.
And it says meat is the flesh or other edible parts of animals, including not only the muscles and fat, but also the tendons and ligaments.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so meat includes fat.
I think so.
Okay, I will buy that. There's obviously fat in meat. No one's eating 100% lean beef. That sounds disgusting.
I don't know what that would be. Sounds bad.
No, when you buy ground beef, it's usually
Sounds
like
dry.
85% meat, 15% fat at least.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Sure.
Yeah. So okay. So
Do we have
didn't
anything
mind
else
Woody.
to say spoiler free?
For
Because I'm
sure.
ready
I
to talk
don't.
spoilers for sure.
I do.
Okay,
Oh,
hit us.
Okay.
I thought all the performances were great. You know, we had a cast of characters that range from straight men and women to eccentrics
Mhm.
and caricatures and stuff like that. And I think all of them played their roles awesome, where they felt like they fit in this world. You know, they were believable in this world. Even Woody Harrelson, when he showed up, I was disappointed. I was like, do we need a famous person showing up? But he was fantastic. And I'm not a Woody Harrelson super fan. He always, maybe I have a Woody chip on my shoulder, but he always has to win me over. And to be honest, he usually does. So I don't know what that says, but he won me over in this. I thought it was great. And I love the cast of characters that we follow the most. I thought it was a fun mix. Yeah. Does the first act of this movie feel as interconnected with acts 2 and 3 as 2 and 3 do with each other?
For me, no. And that's partially because that couple kind of disappears during the second act. Like they're definitely in the movie, but the second act really focuses on other people.
Sure.
And then they come back. They are more in the focus in in the third act. But I thought it was a little interesting that they were such a strong focus of the first act, and there's a prolonged conversation they have.
About who pays for dinner?
Yeah, the argument, yeah, which I thought very interesting. I found that interesting, if not a little on the long side.
See, I kind of feel like in that first act where you just kind of have these two models, they are interlopers. Like they're kind of a representative of the middle class here. They are attractive, which makes them popular with rich people and makes them popular with not rich people. And so they don't have enough money to be on this boat in a typical world situation. They're literally there because she's an influencer and somebody gave them the tickets. Otherwise, they're not rich enough to be on that boat. But they're attractive enough that they're not working the boat either, type of thing. And so I think the reason why he sets that up is because they're in a strange position of power where no matter what happens, they have something they can leverage for power on some level.
I had a different reading than you, James.
Okay.
I thought that their relationship mirrored the relationship between the help and the rich people on the yacht. So like their big argument was basically she didn't notice or care about who paid for the money or what was happening with it. It was kind of like not something she paid attention to, the money.
Mm-hmm.
It was like beneath her to care about it. whereas he cared intensely about the money, and like he's at an audition amongst like 40 other guys that all look the same as him, whereas like she is gets to be on this boat because of her success as an influencer. So I read her as the stand-in for the wealthy and him as the stand-in for the middle class.
Yeah, and
Right, but I think
I kind of said that earlier too. That he seems to be the one who's the outsider among this group.
But I think in that sense, they're kind of like a sub-society. You know what I mean? They're both in the middle class. It just happens to be, in most situations, at least for models, as somebody who's not in the modeling industry but knows a little bit about it just through media, female models get paid more. They have longer careers. There's far more of them that have hit superstardom versus male models, for sure. And so there's like a class system even within that group. She also very quickly in that first third admits that she manipulates him into paying for everything. You know what I mean? Like they admit to each other that they're using each other to further each other's careers, and that they're eventually going to split up and leverage their beauty for bigger gains than what each other can give, to each other.
She says that to him?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she does.
He says it too. She says it first, but then he's like, yeah, this is fun because we're both attractive and young and it's fun to be hanging out. But eventually this has to go away so that we can move up. And the only way we can move up is to leverage our beauty, basically. They don't say it as flatly as I do, but they have that conversation in the room where he's sitting on the bed and she's on a chair, something like that. Yeah. So there's like lots of revisiting social classes, even like subclasses, I would say, here and there. And I think that first section, even though they do disappear a little bit in the second, the third makes the first section makes the third so much better.
Yeah.
To me. And we can get into that in spoilers, but
yeah. Yeah. And then the second act on the boat, I've never seen a scene like that.
Yeah, that is
I'm not just talking about the degree to which they lean into the joke. It's also the filmmaking. They basically enter into a storm and there's kind of rocky waters, and so the boat is just constantly swaying back and forth, and the camera is doing it with us. And it was the perfect amount of like disorienting or like motivated for the characters. Like it just it fits so well, and it was basically like this metronome for what was happening. It was great.
Sure. Yeah, I think that is the execution of that section, that second part is pretty flawless in my opinion.
I think that second part is where people either get on board or turn this movie off. I don't think I'm going to watch the second part and be like, okay, I'll see where this goes.
You know who was really a good actress was that server who like didn't want to go for a swim.
Oh, like her name was Abigail or something.
She was so good. Yeah. In like a very small role, but everyone was really at the top of their game, I thought.
I really liked she wasn't the captain. She was like front of house. I don't know what her role was exactly.
Yeah.
But she was like front of house leader type of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Just I thought she was a very interesting character of trying to keep the social order established.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Her character's name was Paula.
The front of house woman?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything
All right.
else?
Well, I think we're ready to talk some spoilers here.
Okay.
So.
Let's letterbox the movie. I gave it 5 stars.
Oh, wow.
Anybody else?
I gave it 4 stars.
I'll give it 4.5.
All right. A 4.5, and 5 stars for Triangle of Sadness. We're going to talk spoilers for Triangle of Sadness after the podcast is over. So once you get to the end of the podcast, you'll hear a little bit of music. Right after that, we'll go right into spoilers. If you've seen the movie or if you don't care about hearing spoilers, you can check it out there. Moving on to our top 10 movies about the wealthy. So these are movies that have wealthy people in it, I guess, is the one and only top line criteria. At least that's what I used. Anybody want to go first?
I can go first.
Okay, Kyle will go first.
Cool. All right. My number 10 is a aforementioned Leonardo DiCaprio movie on this podcast already. Or maybe forementioned, not sure. But it is Titanic from 1997.
Okay.
So I guess I should say, when I made my list, I was not just thinking about movies about rich people, but movies where there maybe is some commentary on the rich or on wealth gap or some way that rich people act differently than the rest of us.
All of mine have something of that.
Exactly. Yep.
Same here.
And I was at dinner with my wife tonight, and I was talking about my list, and she goes, Titanic. I'm like, oh, that's a really good choice. So I slotted it on here because there's definitely a whole, a lot going on with the first classers versus the third classers during the Titanic.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. My number 10 is a Richard Donner film from 1982 called The Toy. And this has Richard Pryor. He's like in a gift store, and this spoiled rich kid is told he can have anything he wants in the store, and so he picks Richard Pryor. So he basically, his dad hires Richard Pryor to be his toy. And it's a comedy. It absolutely has, like a kind of a skewering of the rich kind of a thing. And I think Richard Pryor is really funny. I have liked the movies I've seen with him in it. But yeah, it's kind of, this movie is not really talked about at all anymore, but I like The Toy. It. You do. You will not stop talking about it.
Off podcast, James is like, guys, have you seen The Toy recently?
Yeah.
It's all the time.
Yeah, but if you haven't seen The Toy, I think it's definitely worth watching. And Jackie Gleason's in it too.
My number 10 is another comedy. This is Trading Places from 1983, directed by John Landis, starring Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy. Jamie Lee Curtis is in it as well. And so, I mean, the premise on this is Dan Aykroyd is like a wealthy stock trader insider, and Eddie Murphy is just a guy from the streets, basically, who he's a hustler from the streets. And these two rich old men who are brothers decide to make a bet that, like, they're debating whether your environment makes you a criminal or whether your race essentially makes you a criminal. So they're like, okay, this is the bet. We're going to flip roles on these guys. We're going to basically give Eddie Murphy everything he ever wants and see how he reacts to that. And we're also going to take Dan Aykroyd and like make him lose everything and see if he turns to crime, essentially. And so it's kind of like a social class swap, essentially. But the two guys, Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy, don't know that this bet is going on. It's just all this weird stuff is happening to them, comedic stuff. And it's interesting. It's good comedy from the 80s. I rewatched it because I was going to put it on my list. And as I rewatched it, it went down the list.
Oh.
Because there is a lot in this movie that I did not remember that will not fly today, I would say. Like, literally, Dan Aykroyd does blackface in this movie. And it totally took me out of the movie. And I've probably seen it 3 or 4 times in my life and never once had the reaction that I have now to something like that. Probably because I haven't seen this movie since the 80s. And so I'm not sure it'll hold up for everybody. It didn't 100% hold up for me. But as far as a movie that skewers the rich or at least addresses class issues. This is a decent comedy as long as you can stomach the 80s-ness.
Yeah, he said the movie should be canceled.
Aykroyd did?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's pretty bad when he does it. And also completely unnecessary. Like, I don't know why they threw that in because it's not even like integral to the story.
Can you give me examples of necessary blackface?
I'm saying they 100% didn't have to do that.
Okay. Versus the other times where it's wishy-washy, where they
Like,
could have done they're not.
They're literally playing it for a joke that has nothing to do with the movie.
Okay.
It's the only time he plays a character other than himself in a situation where he didn't have to even do that, whether it was him in blackface or something else. So, my number 10.
All right. My number 9 is probably the one that's the least commentary, but it does seem to fit this whole list, and that is Crazy Rich Asians from 2018. This is a rom-com directed by John Chu, starring Constance Wu and Henry Golding. They are a couple that just got engaged. Constance Wu is a professor, and she quickly finds out that her fiance, Henry Golding, is from an incredibly rich family from Singapore, I think it is. And she goes to meet the family and experience all their opulence and is a bit of a fish out of water, but also not accepted by her family or by his family because she does not come from the same social class as they do. So, I mean, this is definitely a rom-com. It's definitely a movie that likes to relish in some of the opulence that is being shown on screen, but also has some commentary about, about class and who is allowed into which classes, and can we have mingling of the wealth.
Yeah, that's a really fun movie, I thought.
Oh yeah.
My number 9 is The Muppet Christmas Carol from 1992.
Oh yeah.
It is my favorite iteration of the Christmas Carol. And
you haven't seen Spirited yet, so
that's true. That's true. So that's what it's going to be compared against. But it stars Michael Caine and all the Muppets. And Michael Caine obviously plays Scrooge, who's is he like extremely wealthy or just a businessman?
I
don't
think
know.
he's maybe the wealthiest man in town.
In London? He has like a business with one employee.
I don't know if he's the most. I think he's just very wealthy compared to everybody else in the neighborhood type of
Gotcha.
thing.
Very frugal.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
It's a great movie. It's funny. It's got heart. It's it's great. It's a classic. Muppet Christmas Carol.
I was scared of the ghost of Christmas to come, Christmas future from this movie.
The big
Which
guy.
Which one was that?
He kind of looks like Death. Like he's just sort of like a shadow in robes with I don't know if he has a bony hand or not, but
so you're not talking
was
about
pretty
Sweet
creepy.
Pea, right?
No, Sweet Pea is.
Which one is he? I don't remember.
I don't think he's one of the ghosts at all.
I think he is a ghost. No? It's been a while since I've seen it, but
because the ghost of Christmas past is like, I don't remember. It was one of them.
Are you talking about Sweetums?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Sweetums.
Sweetums.
That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
It's like, who's Sweet Pea?
sorry,
Sweetums.
I said that, but it's Sweetums. You're right.
Sweetums is like the big hairy monster guy.
Yeah. Sweetums is not one of the ghosts.
Okay. Is he in the movie?
Yes, pretty sure he is.
All right. My number. Is it my turn? It is my turn.
It is.
Right? My number 9 is Crazy Rich Asians. I don't have much to add
Oh,
to
excellent.
what Kyle said, other than I enjoyed it, which he said as well. So I guess I have literally nothing to add.
My number 8 is a movie from 2011 called Margin Call. This stars a lot of people you'd recognize. One of them is Kevin Spacey, so it's always hard recommending Kevin Spacey movies now, but he is in this. But Zachary Quinto's in this, Jeremy Irons, Mary McDonnell, Stanley Tucci, Demi Moore. This is called Margin Call. Did I not say that already?
You did.
Okay. So Margin Call is it's a movie. Yeah, it's a movie. Margin Call is about a fictional investment bank that is realizing that the financial crisis of 2008 is about to happen. And it's sort of like this 24-hour period of how they are trying to um, respond to this incoming crisis to make sure that they leave themselves and their shareholders in the best possible position. Um, and who cares who gets hurt along the way? Like, how can we protect our own wealth and our own assets? So it's very much a financial thriller. We have a lot of darkroom meetings and people making decisions and sort of trying to do what's best for their own financial line. And what really stands out for this movie is Jeremy Irons. He's in it. He's in one scene. I think he plays like the CEO, whatever this investment bank is. And he calls like this midnight meeting and gets everyone together and is basically like Gordon Gekko, where he is, we have to do anything we can to keep ourselves wealthy while this crisis happens. So it's a really interesting take on the financial crisis from like a very small viewpoint. I don't know if a lot of people saw this movie when it came out.
I saw it and liked it. It's definitely about wealthy people.
Yeah.
For some reason, it didn't hit my brain because I was thinking more like them displaying their wealth. There's not a lot of that in that movie. It's mostly like in a, conference room.
No, this is more people protecting their wealth.
But it is about the wealthy. So I'm not arguing with it, the inclusion on your list, but it's not on mine just because I didn't consider it because I didn't think of it. No, I did think of it, but I didn't think it fit the criteria. But now that we're talking about it, I think it does.
Mm-hmm.
What's the name of the movie again?
Margin Call.
What was that?
Margin Call.
All right. Got it.
All right. My number 8 is a Disney movie by the incredible director Wolfgang Reitherman, and it is The Aristocats.
The Aristocats.
Yes. This is a one of the favorites in my household. We watch this one quite often. And it's about a family of cats, a mother and her children, her kittens. They live in a very well-to-do house, and then they get kidnapped and away from home, and they have to make their way home with the help of an alley cat, from the lower legs of society. And it's just it's a fun time. It's Disney calls it's like jazzy movie, because there's like jazz cats in it and stuff. And it's a lot of fun. It's got great music. I think it's funny. I like the Aristocats.
I have never seen the Aristocats.
Oh, you haven't?
Never seen it.
I think it's good. Eva Gabor is one of the voices.
Oh, Eva Gabor.
Yeah.
How have I missed this movie?
Scatman Crothers.
I do like
plays
him.
the Scat Cat.
Is like I can't think of a song from this movie.
Well, that's because you haven't seen it, probably.
Yeah, but like there are definitely ubiquitous Disney songs, and in the car we listen to like Disney hits all the time. And Aristocats is not coming up on the Disney hits playlist. Yeah,
I mean, the 70s was a kind of a forgotten era of Disney. Those movies aren't pushed a lot by Disney. They focus on the the 50s and then the 90s, those kind of movies. But
and Disney's not pushing their Spotify playlist with 70s music, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you.
Okay, yeah.
But Thomas O'Malley Cat, Everyone Wants to Be a Cat. You know the song Everyone Wants to Be a Cat, right?
You can sing it for me.
I will sing it for you.
I'm
off
ready.
air.
Off air, okay.
But Everybody Wants to Be a Cat is a earworm for sure.
All right.
James, Aristocats, have you seen it?
Seen it.
Love it?
Seen it. I don't remember it.
Someone asked, is Aristocats based on a true story? And the answer is yes. That's awesome.
On Google? This is like a Google question?
An IMDb trivia.
Oh, okay.
It was based on a true story of a Parisian family of cats from 1910 that inherited a fabulous fortune.
Nice. My number 8 is a movie from 2002. It's a comedy called Mr. Deeds, starring Adam Sandler and Winona Ryder, amongst others. And this is about a guy who owns a pizza shop in Nowhereville, USA. And little does he know, he has an uncle who is a billionaire who passes away, and he is the closest living heir. So he inherits like $40 billion overnight. Meanwhile, the people who are on the board of his uncle's company think he's kind of like a hayseed or something, that he has no clue what he's doing in business. And so they plot to buy his shares for cheap and take over the company. And it's a comedy, but it's like kind of the rare Adam Sandler comedy from this time where there's almost nothing offensive in it. Like, he's not telling dirty jokes or cursing. It's not rated R at all. I think it might even be PG for all I know. The one thing that I didn't remember about it, because I rewatched this in the last week, is that 2 or 3 times they use the 3-letter F word.
Oh.
And again, this is another example, this one from 2002, of things that just would not be in a movie today. In fact, I assumed by 2002 we had stopped that, but evidently not. So that kind of put a damper on my rewatch, but I do enjoy this movie. I think it's a feel-good movie that if you are not completely turned off by Adam Sandler at this point, like this is subdued, likable Adam Sandler, still in a comedy, but not quite like, crossing into drama. Certainly, this is still squarely comedy, but I enjoyed it. I like Winona Ryder, who is most recently famous for what's that show? Stranger Things. And I remember her in like 80s movies, but I don't remember much of her career in the middle. And this is definitely the middle. And she's good in it. She's not like just like love interest fodder for Adam Sandler. Like, they actually made her as complex a character as this movie required. And she was good in it. My number 8.
Nice. My number 7 is the aforementioned Trading Places. It has been a while since I've seen this movie. I remember liking it a lot and finding it very funny. Do not remember Dan Aykroyd in blackface in this movie.
No, I didn't either. When it happened, I was like,
Yeah.
What am I watching? Well, how did this go bad so fast?
But I
wild.
do remember that you get an early glimpse of Eddie Murphy doing his what will become Coming to America character.
Mhm.
And this movie features Jamie Lee Curtis, who at the time was a scream queen. It was not seen as a comedic actor. And I think this kind of shows her comedic chops too.
Yeah. She doesn't have a whole lot to do in it, just because I rewatched it recently. But there are 2 characters in this movie that carry over into Coming to America.
The prince and
The prince's assistant.
the Arsenio Hall guy
Right.
character. Okay, yeah. Nice. Zach, what's your number 7?
My number 7 is a documentary called Grey Gardens. Have either of you seen this?
No.
But you've recommended it multiple times.
Oh my goodness.
Let's hear
This
about it
is
again.
Worth watching. It's from 1975 and it follows 2 women, the aunt and the cousin of Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. And so they have like they're kind of tangentially related to like, American royalty. But they live in this mansion in East Hampton. But the mansion is like 100 years old and it's completely dilapidated, and they live in squalor and poverty, essentially. So these women wear like fur coats, and they're like eating out of tin cans, essentially, and completely divorced from reality of their situation, because in their minds they are like, they're one step away from the Kennedys. and so just this juxtaposition of their reality versus how they see themselves, and then their relationship. It's a mother and a daughter between themselves, and they're both old by this point. It is utterly fascinating to watch their lives and their commentary on each other, and it's one of those, like, I don't know, real special documentaries that just captured one of the great eccentrics that I've seen. So it's called Grey Gardens, and I think it's worth checking out.
I see it come up in like Criterion Blu-ray lots a
Okay.
lot, and someday when I get it in one of those,
You're gonna get a hold of it.
I will watch it,
Nice.
but not until then.
Can't rush it. Don't
Can't do
rush
it.
it.
Can't do it.
It's not worth rushing, James.
Nope. My number 7, the aforementioned Titanic from 1997. I have nothing to add. Good movie.
What more can be said about Titanic?
Mhm.
My number 6 is Snowpiercer from 2013. They're directed by Bong Joon-ho, starring Chris Evans, amongst other. This movie takes place on a train in the future where there's been a climate catastrophe. The world has become a frozen snowball, and the last humans that we know of all exist on this train called the Snowpiercer, which is perpetually circling the globe. And Chris Evans lives at the end of this train, where he's kind of like they're in the lower class. They're the workers. They're fed these protein like Jello molds, and he leads a revolution farther and farther up the train towards the engine room to try and upend the order of things. And as he goes from car to car, more and more history, or more and more of this history of the people and the social structure of the train are revealed as he makes his way forward. And this is definitely a commentary on the class system and wealth and who's in power and who gets to end up at the back of the train.
Yeah, it's a great pick and a really interesting movie. Kyle, are you familiar with the fan theory about that and Willy Wonka?
No. What is the fan theory between this and Willy Wonka?
Oh my goodness. So there is a theory that Snowpiercer is a sequel to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Okay.
And it sounds absurd at first, but I have never seen a fan theory fleshed out so convincingly.
Can you give me the highlights?
Yeah. So
Okay.
Charlie Bucket, all grown up, is the head of Ed
conductor?
Harris.
Okay.
Yeah, Ed Harris,
The conductor.
the conductor. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so that's the connection, right? But
Yeah.
there's a ton of parallels in the movie.
Okay.
He has little people that keep the train running. And when we're introduced to the main character or to another character, we're told his name is Charlie. And the second that they say his name, a bucket comes into screen
Oh,
and then
geez.
goes away.
Charlie
No,
Bucket.
it's just no, but it's literally like 100 things like that all
Yeah.
connect. And then so it's a YouTube video, and then he made a second YouTube video, and that one is just more like blows your mind how many connections there are to Willy Wonka. It's the best produced fan theory I've seen. That like can't possibly be true,
Yeah.
but like also definitely is. So I don't know. It's worth checking out. It's a good time. I'll send you both links. I recommend watching it.
I will check that out. I'm intrigued by this
Okay.
connection between the two.
Yeah. It's great. My number 6 is Margin Call. It's a really good movie. It's on Netflix as well.
Alright.
Yeah. It's such a tight script. It's a
Mhm.
very there's no fat on it. It's every
It's
minute
just meat?
is interesting. Just meat. Just muscle.
Just muscle.
Gristle. Yeah. It's got this tension that drives the movie forward. And what I like about it is everyone in this movie is fantastically wealthy, but there's like these hidden hierarchies of wealth. So like when someone, enters the room that makes $3 million a year instead of $300,000 a year, then it's like, oh, this is serious. And then someone enters the room that makes $40 million a year, and it's like, oh, now it's really serious. And then someone, you know what I mean? And it's just these hierarchies within it as things ratchet up, and then the crass greed of the decisions that they're making. Anyway, it's really good. I like it. Margin call.
It's a good one. Is fat considered meat? According to Google, absolutely meat. Like literally they give percentages. Meat is mostly the muscle tissue of an animal. Most animal muscle is roughly 75% water, 20% protein, and 5% fat.
Oh, so we should say get to the water of it all then.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. My number 6. I'm guessing this will be maybe the one movie that you guys don't have on your lists because it's 2015's High Rise.
I didn't like that movie.
Kyle hasn't seen it and Zach hates it. So
no,
that's why I'm assuming I'm the only one who's going to have this one. I enjoyed High Rise. It's a messy movie that doesn't, speaking of movies who have a specific intention and maybe don't hit it perfectly, I think High Rise fits that description. It's maybe a little too dark and morose than what it needed to be, but I enjoy the movie. I enjoy Ben Wheatley movies. Let me take that back. I enjoy a couple of Ben Wheatley movies, but he made Kill List, and Kill List is awesome, and so I have to watch all of his movies. So this is one that I didn't mind of his. He's had others that I did mind, but this is probably my second favorite Ben Wheatley movie, and then Free Fire is pretty good too. Number 1 being Kill List, and it's literally a movie about a high rise. It's a class system. The higher you live in the high rise, the richer you are, which is pretty much how it works in the real world, right? It's like the more expensive properties are higher up in a high rise. I think that's how it works. Anyway, in this movie, the high rise is your life, basically. Like you go to work and then you come home and there's no other existence other than those two things. And at some point, society devolves and everybody is stuck in this high rise and they're like moving floors based on how much power they have. And there's this guy at the top that's kind of running it all. And I like the movie as kind of like a high concept take on class and the burning of society, I guess. Like society getting thrown into chaos. What happens there? My number 6, High Rise.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's your number 5?
Would you like anything to a High Rise there, Zach?
No.
Besides, you hate that movie, right?
I don't like it.
Okay. All right.
It's mean-spirited.
It is. It is. I'll agree that it is mean-spirited. Go ahead, Kyle.
My number 5 is a French movie from 1939 called The Rules of the Game, directed by Jean Renoir. This is a satire of rich people. A collection of the bourgeoisie assemble in like a country cottage for a weekend of drinking and hunting and sport. And it kind of descends into madness around the hunting, around arguments about wealth and war, and very much has a point of view about how the rich contributes to making our society and our world a worse place. I wish I could remember more of this movie, like the specifics. I remember really liking it at the time. Has a very strong anti-gun message throughout the movie too, which I found interesting for a movie from this era. But I think it's definitely a classic of the skewering the rich genre. I'm curious to see. I have some movies. I wonder if Zach's going to put them on his list. This is one where I'm wondering.
I will.
You will make this list. Okay.
No, this one won't, but the other ones you're talking about will.
Okay. Do you want to add anything to the rules of the game then? Because you might remember it more better than I do.
Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of the rules of the game,
really?
To be honest.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a comedy that I did not find very funny. So do with that what you will.
And this is like one of the first list movies you've seen, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
Back
it's
when
not
you
very.
talked about
It's absolutely something that I would revisit
Okay.
for sure, especially if James finds me a Blu-ray of it. My number 5 is another documentary, the last documentary on my list. It is called The Queen of Versailles from 2012. And this is a documentary about a couple who live in Florida. I've actually met the subject of this documentary. And they're building the largest home in America. That's the conceit, right? You know, her husband is a billionaire who sells condos, basically timeshares, and they're building the largest house in America, and they're about like halfway through, and it just follows them around, and it's an excuse to get a peek into their life, and it's just a fascinating little glimpse into the superficiality of their life and the interesting inner strife of their family and marriage, and it's just it's kind of like a slice of life of this couple that maybe on paper would be admirable or like something someone would esteem to, but watching it play out, it's just not something that I would ever ask for in my life. And so, yeah, anyway, definitely worth watching. It's called The Queen of Versailles.
I didn't consider documentaries for this, but that movie is about the wealthy, and it should definitely be on my list for sure.
Yeah.
I don't normally do this, but Trading Places is out, and Queen of Versailles is probably number 4 on my list.
Oh, okay,
wow.
nice. Very nice.
I'm going to adjust on the fly.
Nice.
Great.
We'll allow it.
All right. Well, I'm making an executive decision here, Kyle. So you.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Kyle,
Whatever you
please
say,
don't-
King James.
Kyle, please do not talk while he's in the middle of an executive decision.
I'm sorry, Zach. Please don't punish me.
My number 5 is from 1999. It's Cruel Intentions.
Ooh, I considered this one.
Yeah.
I'm glad you picked it. Yeah.
This is another one that I rewatched, and it's another mean-spirited movie, I would say. But
it holds up though.
But this is definitely lighter than High Rise because it's a little bit of a parody of like rich kids basically in high school. I couldn't tell if they were in high school or college, but
they're in high school.
The other thing that surprised me is just how absolutely sexless the movie is, considering it's about sex or people like trying to manipulate other people into having sex. But there's no nudity in the movie and barely any cursing, but lots of adult talk around those things or about those things. I was just surprised by that because I remember the movie being a little more saucy, shall we say, when I watched it in the 90s, maybe early 2000s. I don't remember exactly when I saw this. But it was a fun rewatch just to see, Ryan Felipe and Sarah Michelle Gellar and Reese Witherspoon, Selma Blair. It's kind of like a who's who of movies from this time, both drama thrillers and comedies and a little bit of action movies here and there. And there are also a lot of people that you don't really see on screen anymore for one reason or another here and there. And so it was a little bit of a nostalgia watch for me at the same time of a movie that I think I've only seen once, maybe twice before the rewatch. So, but if you like watching rich people be bad and also get their comeuppance in the end, and you like 2000s teen centered movies, definitely check out Cruel Intentions.
If you want to see Ryan Phillippe rocking some frosted tips,
oh yeah, there's
this
a
is
lot
your
of
movie.
That. He is JTT, just JT.
Yeah,
like to a T.
Oh, for sure. Yes. Yep. The gel.
He's JT to a T.
And like,
to a T.
I'm not going to get too personal, but I used to think Sarah Michelle Gellar was like near the top for me. And she is so cheesy in this movie. Like, the things that she says are 100% ridiculous. And I'm like, only somebody who's like in their late teens, early 20s would think this is hot. Because as a 44-year-old dude, it was pretty eye roll inducing on rewatch, but fun. Just because it was like, oh man, I can't believe I thought this was saucy back in the day. Because it is not.
It's crazy in the 90s. Reese Witherspoon like did this. She did that Marky Mark movie Fear or something
Fear.
like that.
Yeah, where she
And
was
then, like,
the untouched.
Exactly.
movies,
And
yeah.
she was the virginal character in this one too.
Mm-hmm.
And then like 2 years later, she does Legally Blonde, and that seemed to just sort of skyrocket her career.
Yeah. She did what's that movie?
Election.
Freeway. Did you ever see Freeway?
No.
Oh, if you want to see early Reese Witherspoon really stretching, you need to see Freeway.
Okay.
Because her in Freeway is nothing like any of these other early movies. Like she's looking for an Oscar in Freeway. Have you seen
Really?
Freeway,
Okay.
Zach?
No, I've been meaning to just because I know you love it.
It's great.
So like between Cruel Intentions and Fear, she's doing Oscar bait.
No, in Freeway she is.
Yeah.
She's doing the standard stuff in those movies.
As I said, between them, she's doing the Oscar bait.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's not
Freeway
saying
might
the
be
average of them. He's saying in the middle.
Gotcha. Freeway might be her first movie.
Okay.
I don't know if that's true
Oh,
at
so
all.
she went big right away then.
Absolutely not her first movie, but the same year as Fear. So
Okay, so like-
very early.
Mid 90s.
I think Fear was the first movie I, conceived of her, ever saw her in anything. And then shortly after, I saw Freeway on like a Blockbuster rental because it was a low budget indie movie.
Nice. All right, well, maybe I will see Freeway. But I have definitely seen my number 4. This is the only Louis Buñuel movie on my list, The Exterminating Angel. Zach, I'm pretty sure you have 2 on your list, and I'm curious to know what order they come in. And I think I have an idea.
Okay.
But this is, of his big ones, this is my favorite Buñuel movie. This is a 1962 movie. It is about a group of rich people at a dinner party. And the dinner party is at an end, and the host is trying to get everyone to leave, and people are kind of milling around, and they're not sure why. And they slowly realize throughout the evening that they can't leave the room. And it's not like they're barricaded in, like the door's open. It seems like they could physically just walk out, but they, for whatever reason, anytime someone tries to leave this room, they just can't. They either find an excuse to go back into the room, or they just feel like drawn back to the space. And over time, they are trapped in this room, and things devolve. And
people are begging them to leave.
Right, exactly. Yep, they're like trying to find food and water. They can't communicate with the outside worlds, and chaos ensues. And this movie seems like the blueprint for something like Triangle of Sadness that we just saw. Like, take rich people and make them uncomfortable and see how chaos happens. This movie seemed, or I should say Mother, felt very heavily influenced by this movie also. About, like, let's put everyone in a house.
Yep.
And have chaos happen. Obviously, Mother's got other things going on, but there's a lot of similar themes to it. And James, I think this is a movie you could actually enjoy. It is in French. I believe it's in French. Nope. I think it's in
Buñuel
Spanish.
is Mexican.
Yeah, I should say it's in Spanish. My apologies. It's in Spanish. But it's not shot like a stage play.
Languages don't bother me at all.
Okay.
It's presentation that bothers me.
I think you could watch this movie. I
Alright.
think you get something out of it.
Spanish, not
Yeah.
Mexican.
You're not going to get, like heavy metal music to rich people pooping themselves, but
I don't need that.
but you're definitely going to get a lot of
there
the
a
same themes you got from
Is
Triangle
there a
of Sadness.
storyline?
I mean, the
Yeah.
storyline is, these people can't leave this dinner party.
Right.
And what happens when they're now trapped in this room. And
I'm
like
into it.
there's servants in there with them, and it's what's the whole structure of everything. So I really enjoyed this movie. I've seen the other one that Zach will mention. I did not enjoy that as much, but this one I really liked.
Well, the one you didn't enjoy as much is my number 4.
Okay,
It's also
all right.
by Louis Buñuel. It is called The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie.
That's the one. Yep.
And it's awesome.
It's like
it's
go ahead.
great. It's a fever dream essentially of six people trying to have a dinner party, and the dinner party keeps getting interrupted for whatever reason, and they just get hungrier and hungrier, and they can't seem to sit down and eat. Again, it feels very much a piece with Triangle of Sadness, the movie we watched. But they keep getting interrupted. One time they sit down to dinner and they're about to start eating, and then they realize they're on a stage and there's an audience watching them, and they're not at an actual dinner, they're on a play. And so they all have to leave, obviously, because they don't want to be in a play. And then they go and, terrorists break up the dinner, and they get hungrier and hungrier and can't eat. And it's just the problems of being bourgeoisie. It's difficult life. It's really, I find it very funny and surreal for sure. We get very few surrealist films, and when you get one, I just really tend to enjoy it. And so I enjoyed this one a lot. Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie is my number 4.
I remember liking that one. I was bothered by it has a lot of dream sequences.
It does.
And it doesn't quite seem like it has, not that Exterminating Angel has a strong plot to it, but it definitely has a story. And this one felt more like it's just this group of people trying to have a meal. And it didn't quite feel as connected, just more episodic.
Yeah. I thought it was funny that you wanted your surrealist satire to have more of a concrete plot.
Yeah, I know. It's weird. I think it was the dream sequences that really set me off on the Bourgeoisie, just because you don't know their dream sequences and they go on for a long time. And then like someone wakes up and you're like, oh, okay. Well, is this
at one point there's a dream sequence in a dream sequence.
Exactly. Yep, that's right. Yep.
My number 4. Kyle beat me to it again. What?
By the way, this is the Buñuel section, so if it's not Buñuel, you better just move on.
Oh, well. I guess we'll have to move on then.
Okay. All right. Zach, what's your... I'll go to my number 3 then.
No, what did he beat you to?
Yeah, I want to hear.
2013 Snowpiercer.
All right.
Which I have nothing to add other than it's great. Kyle, have you ever been tempted to watch the TV show?
I'm aware of it. I'm not tempted, no.
I haven't seen any of it, but I am getting more tempted because one, Jennifer Connelly is like the
you like her?
lead,
Yep.
is the lead, and I haven't seen a Jennifer Connelly thing in a while. And 2, they're on season 3. Like it
What?
seems to not be going. It's not like it came out and nobody watched it and it went away. It's got enough of a fan base, and it's got a 75% on Rotten Tomatoes as a TV show, which is not insanely high, but it's higher than the original movie, which I think says something.
It's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, I'm tempted, and there's only like 10 episodes per season, so it's not like they're going for like, good TV show, not pump out 24 episodes a year, Law and Order style TV show. So anyway, my number 4, Snowpiercer.
I still haven't finished Ring of Power, so the rate I watch TV right now, I'll get to Snowpiercer in like 2024.
You haven't finished Ring of Power?
Yeah, I'm like halfway through the 8th episode or something like that. I'll get there. They're
watch
too
them week
long.
to
I
week.
like them, but
I
like
loved
each
it.
one's 70, 80 minutes long, and it's hard to watch it in one sitting.
We haven't really talked about it, but and we don't have to right now. Did you guys? I just want to know, with no context other than yes or no, did you guys watch the new Game of Thrones?
Yes.
No.
Okay, move on.
Moving on. All right. My number 3 is a comedy from 1949 called Kind Hearts and Coronets.
Such a good movie.
This movie surprised me.
Great
It's
choice.
so funny. It is about a man who is in line to inherit a large fortune from his mother, but his mother elopes with another person, and the family gets mad about that, and they don't write him out of the will, but they put him sort of at the back of the line of the will, and all these cousins are now in front of him to inherit the fortune. And as revenge, he decides to murder all the cousins so that way he can inherit the fortune. The rub to this movie is every single cousin, all like 8 of them, are played by Alec Guinness. And some of these cousins get like lots of screen time, and some of them get brief moments of it. But every single time you see a cousin, it's Alec Guinness. And a lot of the ways he murders them are quite comical. Like one gets killed in a hot air balloon accident, which is rather funny. So this is definitely it's a black comedy, right? Because there's a lot of death in it, even though it's comical. And it's about this man's desire to get revenge and to inherit the fortune that he was denied.
Yeah, it's really funny.
Yeah, it surprised me with how funny this movie is. And to see Alec Guinness playing a comedic role was not something I expected either.
My number 3, the previously mentioned The Exterminating Angel. It's really, really funny and good.
I'm glad this is higher than Bourgeoisie. I thought you liked Bourgeoisie more.
No. Exterminating Angel is awesome movie.
Yeah, I completely agree.
My number 3, more Stolen Valor, but this one from Zach. The Toy from 1982.
Oh,
so you had to wait so long from number 10.
It's all right. I love this movie, and I do talk about it more than your average person, I would say.
I would say.
I don't know why my parents let me watch this as much as they did, because it definitely has a kid at the center of it, but it has a lot of off-color stuff in it. It's about a kid who wants for nothing. His parents are mega rich, and he has basically my dream bedroom as a kid. Because this came out when I was like 5. I'm guessing I saw it when I was like 6 or 7, and this kid owns every toy that I ever wanted. Basically, has this massive bedroom, has like a slide and a fireman's pole in his bedroom. And what do you give a kid who has everything? He wants a black man. This black man is played by Richard Pryor, and he's literally just a guy who's paid to play with this rich white kid. And over the course of the movie, he teaches the rich white kid to respect people, basically, or like realize that people are people and you need to, not be such a little turd, not be so selfish type of thing. And also, Richard Pryor is just trying to navigate this very strange situation where he's been tasked to play with a little white kid. And it's definitely not a world that he's used to, this uber wealthy world. And so it's a slapstick comedy. I haven't seen it in a while. I hope there's not anything super out of date that's going to take me out of it when I do rewatch it.
Sure there is.
There probably is. I don't think there's any blackface in this, so hopefully it's not something that extreme. But I'm pretty sure there's probably a lot of 3-letter F words in this, or at least one, and maybe a couple other things that we just wouldn't see today. But I do enjoy the movie, and I think it has a good message. My number 3.
Nice. My number 2 is The Wolf of Wall Street from 2013, directed by Martin Scorsese, starring Leonardo DiCaprio. It's based on the autobiography of Jordan Belfort, who was a self-made stockbroker who then went on to throw these incredibly lavish parties and kind of live this stock bro lifestyle that we still see today. There's other things going on in this movie too, with securities fraud and the mob, and this movie covers a lot. But a lot of this movie is also just showing how the rich now choose to live and how they choose to spend their money. And great performances from Leonardo DiCaprio, Jonah Hill, Margot Robbie, etc. I think this was one of my favorite recent Scorsese movies.
Nice. My number 2 is a movie that I've talked about a ton because it's one of my favorite films. It is directed by Barry Levinson from 2004. It's called Envy, and it stars Ben Stiller, Jack Black, and Rachel Weisz. And it has Christopher Walken and Amy Poehler and other people in it. I find this movie absolutely hilarious. Basically, Jack Black and Ben Stiller are just your average dudes, and then they're neighbors and friends. And then one of them, Jack Black, invents Vaporize, which takes, like, if your dog goes to the bathroom outside, you spray it with this can and it makes the dog poo disappear. And he becomes fantastically wealthy because of this. And his neighbor, Ben Stiller, is jealous, basically, of his wealth. And so it absolutely explores, how does money change relationships and the wealth and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's super funny and I like it a lot. So it's called Envy.
I tried to rewatch this for this list to see if maybe it would land on my list.
Mm-hmm.
And I got like 15 minutes in and then had to stop for something else and then forgot to go back to it. So I was like just about at the moment when they realize they have a product.
Sure.
And they're all celebrating. So I think that's too early to call, whether I would have enjoyed the rewatch or not. But
had it gotten to the point yet where there's like a singing narrator?
No.
Okay.
That's about to happen.
The narrator starts just singing every now and then.
I don't remember that, but
yeah.
My number 2. I'm surprised you guys haven't mentioned this. Maybe it's your number 1s, but this is 2019's Parasite, which is absolutely about rich people and class and all those things, and is really good. It's not about the mega rich, I guess. I think they're just like normal rich, not like they're like really nice big house rich, not like 20-room mansion rich. Or maybe they are and they just don't need a 20-room mansion. I don't know. But yeah, Parasite's great, and it's about this wealthy couple who has 2 children, right? Are there 2 kids or 1 kid?
2 kids, yep.
Yeah, 2 kids, and this other family of 4 who are having a hard time getting a job, and they kind of like scam their way into jobs with this rich family, and basically scam other working class people out of their jobs in the process. And so it's kind of like a con man movie, but it's a con man movie where people are just working their way into a job they're not qualified for, but are actually good enough for to hold the job. Yeah, it's another Bong Joon-ho movie. He made Snowpiercer, which was also relatively high on my list. And yeah, I enjoy Parasite quite a bit, and I'm guessing most of the people that listen to this podcast have at minimum heard of it and have probably seen it. But my number 2.
Yeah, great movie.
So before I do my number 1, there are 2 movies I intentionally left off, which could easily have made this list. One of them was The Big Short, which I think covers the same topic as Margin Call. I think Margin Call just has a more interesting take on it, especially like a more laser focus, where Big Short's sort of about the entire financial crisis. And the other one was Parasite. And I left off Parasite, not because it's not a good movie, or I mean, I really like it, but Parasite just seemed to cover a lot of the same themes that all these other movies I have also covered. So it felt like it would been. Maybe it's the best of all these because it's the culmination of all those themes. But for whatever reason, I just didn't want to include it on this list.
Fair enough.
So I left it off, but I completely see why you would include it. And maybe Zach, you did include it. But a movie that I
You'll
think
never know.
influenced Parasite a ton is 1963's High and Low, directed by Akira Kurosawa.
Such a good pick. Well done.
Thank you. This movie stars Toshiro Mifune, and he plays a shoe company executive whose chauffeur's son gets kidnapped, and then the kidnapper contacts Mifune and says, "Hey, I have this boy, and I'm holding for ransom." Now, it's partially a mistake. The kidnapper meant to kidnap Mifune's son, kidnapped the wrong person, and now
Mifune.
Mifune. Thank you. Now Mifune has this crisis of, do I now try and help my chauffeur's son, right? Because he obviously can't afford the ransom, but this isn't my kid. What do I do about it? And sort of there's this crisis of conscience and of wealth. And then the second half of this movie is kind of a police procedural, so it moves a little bit away from that. But definitely the first half is clearly a discussion on class. The reason this movie is called High and Low is because Mifune and his family live at the top of the valley up on the hills in this nice house. And then the kidnapper, they're pretty sure, lives in the slums down in the valley in this very densely populated area. And there's this scene in Parasite, I don't know if you remember, during the rainstorm where the con artist family is leaving the house and they're walking to their home in the slums. And during that entire sequence, they're always going downhill during this rainstorm. And I was convinced that Bong Joon-ho was influenced by High and Low while shooting that moment of having the rich people up on the hill and then the poor people down in the slum and showing them walking downhill through this storm to get to where they have to be.
I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he was directly influenced by that, but it's also the way it is in most societies.
True, I guess, yeah. But like it's so pointed out in that scene of them walking downhill through this rainstorm.
Sure.
Yeah. But you're right. It's most people, the rich live up in the hills and the poor live down in the densely populated area. So, yep, my number one, High and Low.
Okay, well, it's bonkers to me that none of you have my number one on your list.
Okay.
When we're talking about a list about the wealthy or the rich, there's one film.
Okay.
Directed by Rupert Wainwright. It's 1994's Blank Check. Now for those who have not seen Blank Check, recently a young boy is hit by a car, and the person who hits him is in a hurry, and so he gives him a blank check and says, "Have your dad fill this out, and I'm gonna keep going." I think he breaks his bike or something. And so the boy decides he is going to fill in the check himself, and he writes it out for $1 million.
$1 million.
Yeah, $1 million. And he's like a 9-year-old boy, and he does anything he wants with his newfound wealth. And it's ultimate wish fulfillment. And he learns that maybe that's not all he wanted. Maybe that's not everything in life. It's a perfect movie. There's nothing wrong with it. It's it's great. So Blank Check, he calls himself Mr. Macintosh.
Yep.
As that's his employer. He pretends like he works for Mr. Macintosh. Anyways, I recommend it. Go see it. In theaters today. Blank Check.
That kid stretches $1 million in amazing ways.
Oh yeah, I'm shocked
Yeah.
that his $1 million lasts that much. But
does he buy a jet?
No, he does not get a jet.
Okay, I thought he had a Harrier jet or something like that.
No, he doesn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Blank Check has what Rotten Tomatoes percentage?
It's got to be
like 100 maybe?
like a 33.
Kyle says 33. Seriously, Zach, try to guess.
12.
9%.
Oh.
9%.
Can people not enjoy things? Come on.
No, you can enjoy. I don't have a problem with it, but 9%.
know,
I mean,
9% chance of enjoying it.
These
Oh,
reviewers
okay.
need to enjoy things.
I
Yeah,
don't
well, yeah.
know.
What's the viewer score on Blank Check?
I don't know that.
Okay.
Impossible to find out.
My number 1, which I guess maybe doesn't have to be on y'all's list, but I'm kind of surprised, is Triangle of Sadness.
Oh, that's your number 1. That's your favorite movie
Wow.
about the wealthy.
As it stands right now, I'm like 3 weeks to a month out from seeing it, so maybe this is a little recency bias, but I think it's the most about the wealthy and also my favorite about the wealthy, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like I'm not sure if I was making a list on my favorite movies, I think Parasite would be above Triangle of Sadness. But if you're talking about movies that to me are specifically about the wealthy, like Parasite has other things going for it. Whereas Triangle of Sadness, its one mission is to be about the wealthy or wealth or, societal class stuff. And that's why it's my number 1.
Nice.
Good choice.
Also the pooping and the vomiting.
The pooping. Yeah, we should have done top 10 bodily fluids movies instead.
I threw one out there.
You threw out like a dozen
Just passed
ideas.
it out.
There was a
One of them was top 10 movies not for emetophobes, which are people that don't like barfing.
Gotcha. I didn't look up what that word meant.
Yeah, I didn't look it up either. I assume it was just I assume it had to do with either barfing or pooping. So
Yeah. Well, I think it's not that they don't like it. They literally have a fear of it. Like they don't want to. They're in constant fear of.
like they have a fear of barfing themselves.
Yes.
not
and they
seeing
also
barf,
don't
but-
want to be around it or see it, or
Okay.
it's like people who are afraid of dolphins. It's not that they're just afraid of them if they're in front of them. They're literally afraid of dolphins, period. They don't
How many
want
people are
anything to
afraid
do
of
with it.
dolphins?
Who's the girl who
I don't know, more or less than people gone sledding. That's the question.
what's her name?
Less.
She's a former model and she had her own reality TV show. And she was also on Project Runway, I believe. America's
Klum?
Next Top Model.
Sasha Fierce?
Right, but what's her real name? That's
Tyra
like her.
Banks?
Tyra Banks is deathly afraid of dolphins.
Really?
And there's like a famous viral clip from a talk show. I believe her talk show, because didn't she also have a talk show for
She
a while?
did.
Yeah,
Yep.
she did.
Where she
course.
confronts her fear of dolphins. And it's
Brave.
pretty funny. It's been a while since I've seen that clip, but it's pretty funny. So yeah, people are afraid of dolphins. At least one.
Okay. All right.
That I know of.
It's the teeth. They're kind of upsetting.
I don't know what would upset you about a dolphin, but evidently they are upsetting to some. Thank you for joining us for this episode 557 of the Cinereelists podcast. That was Triangle of Sadness and our top 10 movies about the wealthy. If you have anything to add on those two subjects, you should probably email us at heyguys@cinereelists.com. If you emailed us this week, we'll talk about it next week on the show. You could also send us a list recommendation or a movie recommendation, any of those kinds of things via email. You could also follow us on social media at Cinereelists on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter for now. We'll see if Twitter's around much longer. You could also follow me on my personal Letterboxd or Twitter account at YoJRB.
You can follow me on Twitter or Letterboxd at Shaban.
I'm not on Twitter, but you can find me on Letterboxd at PeterSKB.
You are on Twitter.
I am on Twitter, but I don't
He's a
actually
lurker.
post. I'm a
Lurker.
lurker. I follow like a dozen people.
Perfect.
You two are like a sixth of my following right there. So
Awesome. Don't forget, if you want to do Christmas pre-watching, the movies that we're going to talk about in a few short weeks, you should be on the lookout for Spirited on Apple Plus, I'll Be Home for Christmas on Disney Plus, and Tree Man on Vudu rental. I think that's the most likely place you're going to find it. And next week, we will be talking Tar, the movie with all the hype these days. We'll see if it lives up to it. We'll be doing that and your email. We'll see you guys there. Until then, also, don't forget, you can stick around for spoiler chat on Triangle of Sadness. We'll see you guys next time. Keep it Cinereal.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.
This is spoilers for Triangle of Sadness. If you have not seen the movie or don't care about spoilers, or you do care about spoilers, then don't listen to this. Just pause it and come back. If you have seen the movie or you don't care about spoilers, then listen on, because we're going to spoil and talk freely about Triangle of Sadness. I had something to start with that's not necessarily a spoiler. For people who have not seen the movie, I didn't want this to be top of mind because it really doesn't have anything to do with the movie, but does kind of make me sad. Okay. And that's that Charlie Dean, who is the female model, died before this movie came out.
She died?
In real life?
In real life. Evidently, in 2008, she got into a car accident that removed her, where she had to remove her spleen.
Oh, because she had a scar. I noticed that.
And then years later, she got some kind of weird infection. It killed her between the filming of the movie and the release.
Yeah, she died late August.
Yeah.
Wow.
And she was great in this. I absolutely would have seen more movies with her in it, for sure.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting.
I had no idea. That is wild.
Yeah.
And I thought it was also interesting. Obviously, no, it was not a character choice, but just that to feature a model with a scar.
Yeah.
I thought that was like, I'm like, oh, this. They obviously never addressed it, and now that all makes sense, knowing who she was in real life.
I never noticed the scar.
You know, oh yeah, definitely in the, like when she's in a swimsuit in that, in the third act. I noticed it several times.
It kind of looked like a C-section scar. So I thought maybe they were going to bring something up about that, and then they never did.
It was sort of like in the middle of her belly.
Right. But
yeah.
I mean, I don't even know if that's the actual scar, but I'm assuming probably. I don't know. Do they take your spleen from the front or the back? I have no clue.
Maybe she had multiple. I don't know.
Maybe that was a different operation. Let's not pontificate about her scars. But yeah,
hey, I know another dead person. Add that to the list.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry. Yeah, but you have to come up with her name. That's the challenge.
Yara.
That's the character's name.
I know the character's name.
Wow. I can't take you guys anywhere.
For sure. The French name for this movie is Sans Filter, which means without filter, which I also think is a good name.
That'd be a sans filtre.
Yeah.
All right, spoilers.
Spoilers, yes. So the barfing and the pooping. There was a lot of it. There was a lot of it.
So here's my question.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, like, the point of that moment was to sort of upend some social order here and let's punish some rich people. There was a storm going on.
Mm-hmm.
Woody Harrelson was like, we're doing this dinner.
Mm-hmm. And he picks the worst night. Like, she
He picks the
literally
worst night
tells
to do
him,
it.
at the beginning of the second part, she tells him, like, that's the worst night to do this. And he's like, I don't care.
We're doing it anyway. So before that, you also have the woman who makes the staff all go swimming.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I remember Paula, the front of house woman, tells the chef, hey, stop what you're doing. We're all going swimming. And the chef is like, but dinner's almost ready. And he's like, and they're like, no, we're going swimming. Did dinner spoil during that? Is that another reason? Okay, so
he said, the food's gonna go bad. And
okay,
she's
so
like,
that's what I thought. So okay, so dinner's spoiled, and they're on a rocking ship.
Yeah.
So everyone's just vomiting and pooping for 15 minutes.
And the dinner is like food that you would not want to eat if you were going to be sick.
Well, yeah, it's a bunch of
I mean?
like shellfish and raw stuff that you need to eat fresh.
Right. But like every time they brought out a dish, I was like, oh, that is not, if you have a queasy stomach, that is not what you want to be eating. You should be eating like breads and stuff like that, not more, clams and things of that nature.
Oysters. And,
right.
Yeah.
I saw it less as like, let's take 20 minutes and punish the clueless rich.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see it as so much as punishment as like, let's show behind the facade, right? Like, besides their wealth, these people are just as weak as anyone,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
like susceptible to the same things as everyone. They're not superhuman. They're not special.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I took it as.
Yeah. It also was in contrast to people who were conditioned to handle a struggle, right? Like the people on that boat, the people that worked on the boat, all weathered that just fine. They'd been through it before. You know what I mean? You can imagine that the first time they were on a boat, they probably went through it. They've adjusted to it because they've had to struggle, or they've been through the struggle. I also found it interesting that the only rich person who weathered that just fine was the guy. I'm pretty sure he's the only one that said, I didn't have money, and then later I made it. You know what I mean?
The Russian guy?
The Russian guy was
Yeah.
like, I came from nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the two models who don't have money made it just fine. They didn't get sick.
I think they were sick.
They were sick, but not like that lady in the bathroom sick.
No, they weren't explosive diarrhea all over themselves.
Right. I mean, there were people that were getting it really bad, and the models were not getting it bad comparatively, I would say. Maybe they were, and they just didn't show that. But
Sure.
some people were just absolutely destroyed, I would say.
I love a subtle thing they showed. They go below decks, and the ship was rocking, and every so often, like a food cart would just go crashing into the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And they did that multiple times, but it just seems so effective to show how like listless the situation had become. That there's just random carts just crashing into walls. No one's taking care of it at all.
And I also love that the crew knew exactly what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just going to ride this out. And they've absolutely been here before. Like they knew all these people were going to have a nightmare night. And they were just letting it happen with a smile because there's nothing they can do to stop it either.
What?
So they just wait and then shampoo the carpet the next morning. You know what I mean? They were not freaking out at all.
I think my favorite. What? Yeah, Kyle.
Well, this might be. Go ahead. Go ahead, Zach.
My favorite thing about these kind of satires is when extraordinary things are happening and people are acting as if they're like roughly normal.
Mm-hmm.
I like that a lot.
So to play off of that, like during that dinner scene, there is people vomiting left and right, like at dinner, and Paula is walking around with like ginger candies, being like, "This will settle your stomach." Like, how like she's not recognizing the ridiculousness of the situation
because she sees it all the time.
Yeah, but she's also like trying to put a Band-Aid on a
Right.
You're vomiting. A little ginger candy is not gonna like settle that stomach. You're eating bad food on a during
I
a
like how
storm.
they kept telling him like, oh, if you have an upset stomach, just eat more. That's the best thing you can do for us.
yeah,
Eat more.
right. You gotta fill it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's actually good advice, though, because at some point when you're seasick, you run out of things to expel, and that's not a good position to be in because you'll just basically dry heave and it'll just tear up your stomach even more, your throat, stuff like that.
James, only one way to find out. You got to take 2 trips
That's
on the
right.
water. Okay.
Both during storms.
I decline.
It's the only way.
I do find when I'm nauseous sometimes like eating something like bread. There are some foods that do help when I feel nauseous.
Mhm.
Putting heavy cream clam chowder in there is not gonna
No,
make
I
it
go
any
for
better.
like old calamari. That's my go-to. Just like
Mhm.
slightly turned calamari.
Yeah, I always leave some clams on the roof for these situations.
Yeah.
Is that a phrase I don't know? Clams on the roof?
Yeah, roof clams. Just they just bake in the sun for a while.
Roof clams.
Roof clams.
The one thing I did like about like the Woody Harrelson Russian thing was that like they're both pretty proud of themselves and like their political viewpoints or whatever,
Yeah.
their viewpoint on life. And so they're sitting there, chaos is happening around them. They're both okay though. They're kind of having fun with it. And they start like dueling with quotes, but at some point they completely run out of ammo and start looking it up on their phones.
I love that. Where they like kept a list of quotes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And they just kind of realize that they're very alike, even though they don't agree perfectly.
Yeah.
And then that kind of spills over into the cabin, reading things over the loudspeaker and stuff like that. But I liked, they didn't try to get us to know everybody on the ship, just select people, and they fleshed those people out enough during the boat part, the ship part, that by the time you get to the island towards the end, you had a pretty good feeling for the people that were left in the movie. I just
I
thought it
wish
worked so
we had
well.
seen more of the cleaning lady
On the boat.
earlier in the movie.
I think that was on purpose
to kind
Why?
of make her nameless at first.
because she's under the boat. You don't see her when you're up at the pool. She's cleaning your bathroom. She's just not a part of the world.
You wanted to see
if you're
like
under the
yeah,
boat.
just kind of unseen, unthought of.
She
Right.
may have been the woman who was. Remember, it was like during the second act when the model couple's in their room and there's a cleaning woman like at the door, like I'm here to clean your room, and they're like, come back, like they're like, not now, I'll be back in 5 minutes. Like not now, 10 minutes. I wonder if that was her. I didn't recognize her at the time. And again, maybe that was a point to be like, oh, this is just a cleaning lady. This is no one of note.
I'm
So I'd
curious,
be curious to watch
it
it again and see if she pops up or not.
Definitely. I don't think she does, but
I thought she was the one cleaning the carpets after that night.
there were a lot of people cleaning the carpets.
Yeah.
She might have
Again,
been one of them.
I think the movie did a clever job of not making her a noticeable person during the first 2 acts or during that second act. So then during the third act, when she becomes a huge part of the movie and of this new society, you're like,
Then
oh,
you're like, she's been there the whole time, but we didn't
right.
know her.
We didn't notice her. Yeah. I think it was intentional, but
Okay.
I think so.
I
too.
don't know. It'd be interesting to watch it again and see if you do actually notice her.
Anything else with that middle section of the movie, or should we now talk about the ending, the last third?
I thought the British people, the British couple, they were a little too on the nose.
The
of like,
grenade people?
Yeah, all that like here's this polite British family that makes landmines. I don't know.
I thought it was just enough for people who made their living, who made their fortune selling landmines. You know what I mean? It was like, we're gonna let you know that these people literally have no conscience, haven't even considered what they're doing, and are living high on the spoils.
Yeah.
And that's all the humanity we're going to give you about them. Like, we're not going to humanize these people at all, other than you're either absolutely cluelessly self-involved
Yep.
or you're literally you know what you're doing and you have no conscience about it. And I think those old people were like kind of a combination of those two.
I did like his line when the model asked him, like, "Oh, what's your business?" And then he says, "Oh, our product has been defending democracy for a century," or something like that. And then they're like, "What do you do?" Like, oh, okay.
I don't know, Zach, did you have an opinion on the old British couple?
No, that was great. Yeah. I love the scene where, so the yacht gets attacked by pirates.
Mhm.
The next morning.
Yeah. And they throw one of his grenades onto the boat, and then the wife picks it up and is like, "Oh, I think this is one of ours," and then they blow up.
It blows
Right.
up, and yeah, and I thought it was really clever that they showed the sinking of the ship, but like, which could have been an action sequence in quotes from like just the sea. Like you hear gunfire, you hear screaming, and then there's a huge explosion.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like this big dramatic moment of in your face action.
Yeah,
It's not Captain Phillips.
for sure. And then you cut to like people on an island, and these are the survivors, and they're just kind of waking up from.
Hey,
Yep.
was that one survivor? What did he turn out to be? One of the pirates, or was he in the engine room?
I assume he was.
I think he admitted to it at some point.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was a pirate. That I thought it would have been more interesting if they had kept exploring that too. Because like at first the Russian guy accuses him of being a pirate, and he's like, "Oh no, I worked in the engine room," and and then they kind of dropped it at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't remember if they ever revealed it. He was just so not the point, I think, at that point.
Oh yeah,
So-
no, they did reveal it because at one point he's talking to, I don't know who he's talking to, but he says like how much money he makes being a pirate.
Yeah, I think he's talking
Yeah.
to the Russian.
Maybe it was the Russian. Okay.
So some of the people survive and end up on this island, right?
Mhm.
And it's what, about 7 of them? I don't know.
Yeah, it's like the Russian, the model couple,
The woman with
the
the
deaf
stroke.
woman, or not the woman who only speaks like one turn of one phrase of German.
Right, the front of
Yeah.
house lady.
Yeah, Paula, and then one of the pirates who says he was in the engine room.
Kind of the sad bachelor was there too, right?
Oh,
the guy in the tuxedo.
he was. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's right. I
He-
forgot about him.
He killed the animal.
Right.
Yeah,
Killed
his
the
big
donkey.
Moment of triumph, and then
Oh man.
That was brutal.
Okay. Yeah, and then so they're all like clueless about how to survive, right? Like all these, none of these people have any clue what to do.
Yep.
And then in the lifeboat floats up, and inside is one of the cleaning ladies
with food.
with food and water,
Mm-hmm.
and she knows how to fish and she knows how to start a fire. And so immediately the balance of power shifts where now she's in control.
Well, yeah. So at first, Paula starts ordering her around. Like,
Yeah.
says to the woman, like, "Oh, bring them food, bring them water."
Still
Right.
serving them.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Like they're still on this pleasure cruise, not stranded on an island somewhere.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But you can pretty quickly see her evaluating the situation and like
Yeah.
questioning, well, why are we still serving them?
Yeah.
And I don't think it takes very long for her to realize that she is the lifeline for these people. She has
Yeah.
skills that they don't have, and she
Mhm.
can leverage that for a better life given the situation, essentially.
Yeah.
And she controls all the food. She tells people what to do. She tells them where to sleep. And at some point, she invites the male model into the life pod with her and starts a relationship with him because he's attractive, essentially.
And pays him in pretzels for it. Like he's getting compensated for this too.
Right.
Yeah. He turns him into a sex worker, essentially.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, I think that's what's interesting is like you have this woman who is at the bottom rung of the ladder in society, and then she gets a chance to be at the top of the ladder, and instead of like seeing this as, oh, I can be different or change, or I know what it's like to be in the bottom and I can make it more egalitarian, she immediately becomes, I'm in control, I make the decisions, I'm going to boss you around. Yeah. Like,
this movie is not trying to say like we need to upend the order and make the people at the lower end like raise them up to the higher end.
Yeah.
It's basically just saying like power and money corrupt.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. To the point where like at the very end, when the young female model discovers that they're not actually on a deserted island, they're just like down the beach from like a resort. The lady, the dictator lady, like kills her in order to like keep her little kingdom and keep everyone from finding out where they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Does she kill her? The movie doesn't
I'm assuming. Why wouldn't she?
actually go there. I'm not arguing that she doesn't, but the movie does not actually show you that.
It doesn't, but don't you think that she probably did? And then immediately after, the male model's like running for his life.
He's running, yeah. And you hear the female model realize, even though her back's turned to this woman, she realizes that she's sneaking up on her with a rock, and she starts kind of like trying to barter with her. And I thought was interesting is like she said, "You can come work for me.
Yeah, you could be my assistant.
You can be my assistant, right? Like not like I'll help your family out, or we can, she was still offering her a job of subservience in some way, shape, or form."
So you think she started making those caveats because she knew the woman had a rock behind her? I did not catch that at all. I thought she just liked Maria, and she was like, "We've been through this whole experience, and now I'm just talking out loud because we're about to be saved, and everything's gonna go back to normal, and I like you though, so maybe we can still be in each other's lives." You know what I mean? That's the sense I got. I didn't get that she knew the woman was about to hit her with a rock. I think she would have turned around and like done something. That was the case.
No, I got the impression that she knew she was behind her, and like maybe she knew I can't fight my way out of this. Maybe I can talk my way out of it.
Well, Kyle's definitely wrong. Kyle's definitely wrong. James is a little bit wrong. I think.
Oh, so
she
Zach's
thought the
right.
woman. Well, yeah. I'm in the middle between you guys. She thought the woman was just going to the bathroom behind her, so that's why she's not looking. So she definitely knew the woman was behind her. She did not know the woman had a rock and was going to bash her head in, but I think she did have an understanding that the woman would be hesitant to leave, and so she brought up the assistant thing as a way to like throw her an incentive to like
to go through the doors.
Going. Yeah. But if she thought the woman had a rock, I think she might have turned around.
I thought she said something like, "You don't have to do this." I could be wrong though. I read the situation as the model knew this woman. I don't know. And movie logic stated she's not going to turn around and run away. Movie logic was she's going to, try and talk her way out of it.
Right. If you're face to face, you talk your way out of it. If somebody's holding a rock, you don't keep your back to them and try to talk your way out of it. I mean, that's insane.
Like, I think it was one of those heightened moments where we're not trying to be, the movie's not trying to be what's the realistic approach. The movie's trying to be what is the message we're trying to tell in this very moment.
I think she wasn't looking for the simple reason that the other person was going to the bathroom, and you don't just stare at people while they do that.
Okay. Well, we can have different interpretations. I very well could be wrong, but
that Maria has shown a ruthlessness for sure, but not a violent streak. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's also something in that moment where it's like Maria has gone full power hungry. She will not give up this power, even if it means killing somebody. Potentially. They don't actually show it. So I don't know if that happens. Because
before this moment, Maria this is kind of when the whole like relationship between her and the modeler is becoming much more apparent, and Yar is suspicious. So Maria asks Yar like, let's go on a hike together. And it seems like a hike to murder her.
It did seem like that, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm glad we're on the same page on that.
There was tension there for sure.
Right. So.
There was also all of these little moments that were so well crafted. I'm specifically talking about with the whistles, because once she whistled at him to come to her, lifeboat, and then the other guys would make fun of him by every time he walked by, they would whistle at him.
Yep.
And just how that was handled was so great. It was just, it couldn't have been done better as far as an acting and a directing perspective.
Sure.
That little like kind of beat.
I do have a relationship question. So you have this Russian guy,
Mhm.
and then there are two women with him, and one seems to be about his age, and one seems to be younger. And I couldn't figure out if one was his wife and one his mother or his sister. I couldn't quite figure out what his relationship was to those two women.
I think it was wife and daughter. That's how I understood it.
I read
Zach?
it as wife and daughter.
Yeah.
I read it as wife and daughter, but I also thought maybe the younger woman was like a trophy wife. But then who's this woman who's the same age as him? So you guys both thought it as the woman who was his age was wife, and then the more made up one who's younger was the daughter.
I could see it being wife and girlfriend,
I could see
Okay.
that. I could see that as well.
but I also don't think there was anything in there that made me think that the Russian was like there was never a scene where the old Russian guy grabbed the young girl in a weird way, or
No,
you know what I mean?
No,
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Because that woman does the woman at his age does wash up on the beach, and he's very distraught about it.
Mhm.
So that's why I couldn't quite figure out what exactly the relationship of those three characters was.
Does the Russian guy during the beach scenes ever cry about his daughter or anything like that? I mean,
No.
that might be.
Oh,
something
that's definitely his wife, because remember he takes the jewelry from her body.
right. The body.
Okay.
I mean, like if it is his daughter, then his daughter's also died. Maybe he doesn't have a body, but she's probably died. But I don't remember him being sad about that.
No, he's not sad until a body shows up.
Right.
And there he's kind of sad.
Well, that's why I'm wondering if it is the girlfriend. That would explain maybe why he's not upset about the
Yeah, I'm
second
not-
woman. But
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Hmm.
I don't think there's enough to fully define it, but maybe
I
on
read it-
rewatch he says it's his daughter. Who knows?
I read it as it's the same woman that we're seeing at two moments of her life. No, I'm just kidding.
I was gonna say the movie does not go
You're going
there.
a little too Bignell on this movie right now, Zach.
To show the duality of no, I'm just kidding.
See, the thing is, they want to leave the boats, but they can't.
But we don't know why.
But we don't until the pirates show up. And then,
Yeah. How do you read the very last shot, which is the male model just running like crazy through the forest,
I
the
think
jungle?
I think he knew that the clean lady, Maria, that was her name.
That sounds right.
I think he knew that she was going to do something, and like he's chasing at, like he's trying to find them. I don't think he obviously doesn't know that a head's been bashed in or anything like that.
That's how I read it too. Was that he's running because he's had I don't know, what's the term? A crisis of conscience. Like he let them go on the walk knowing that Maria was probably up to no good. Because he knows her better than anybody, and he's kind of been in her camp by that point, or at least playing fully the role at that point. Like he's stopped giving his girlfriend pretzel sticks and stuff like that. He's now Maria's boyfriend, basically, or he's at least convinced himself that that's now who he is. And so, yeah, I read it as he doesn't know what happened, but he definitely has changed his mind, and he's going to find them hiking.
Two thoughts. One is pretzel sticks are the worst snack to have in a lifeboat
It's
situation.
so salty and dry.
Yeah, they're the worst. But second, why is that the last shot of the film? Like, why is that the last thought it wants you to have? Like, that he's having a crisis of conscience and going to save her? Like, does that undermine the message? Like, what are we doing here?
I have a theory.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Kyle?
James.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
I think you spend a lot of time with them in the first third, and they do have that conversation on the bed and the chair, where they're like, we like each other. We might even love each other, but this can't last because the world is what it is, and I have to leverage my beauty in this way and hire a millionaire guy that's way older than me, and you have to do what you got to do, type of thing. And so these people actually like each other. They have a similar conversation when they're actually on the ship. on the night where everybody's sick, and they're both sick, but they're not like deathly sick. And then he leverages his beauty, much like she does in the real world, for better gain than she can get when they're on the beach. And I think him running is just like the little glimpse of the positive in humanity in the world, where like you might actually give up a little piece of that power for somebody you actually like. And in that moment, he's running to make sure she's okay, even though he's pretty much moved on in the
So you
pursuit
see
of
it
power.
as like the director wanting to give a slightly hopeful ending.
Not necessarily hopeful, because she's probably hit in the head with a rock, and it's probably for naught. But that occasionally the human spirit will choose not the position of power. You know what I mean? That there's still, when you like somebody, you're going to sacrifice for them.
I guess that does work in the sense of he's very obviously being like cut up as he's running.
Mhm.
Like they want us to know that like he is harming his body to
It's
do
a panic
this.
run through the jungle.
Yeah. So maybe the idea of like he has to give up, I guess, like his privilege, pretty privilege, in order to be humane.
He's going to give up some privilege with Maria if he shows concern for the girlfriend. And he's also literally cutting himself while he runs. I thought it was great. I think this, most movies, they feel like they want to have layers, but they don't get there, right? It's like all very paper thin. This one, I felt like had so many layers here and there, and all of them were clear enough to be understood if you just bother to think about it a little bit. And I think that's a delicate balance. Yes.
What was that Leonardo DiCaprio movie that Kyle referenced earlier?
The Beach?
No.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Titanic?
No, the one that he talked about already on the show that's like a satire about climate change.
Oh, Don't Look Up.
Don't Look Up. This movie is on the opposite end of the spectrum of Don't Look Up.
For sure. Yeah, definitely.
As far as like how you handle satire.
Yes, for sure. I completely agree.
Titanic at the beach.
I pulled up Wikipedia really quickly here. And we are completely wrong on all these names. Her name is Abigail, not Maria.
Really? I thought her name was Maria.
No, so I think.
Well, you guys
James,
followed my lead, and I'm 4 weeks out.
We trusted you in your majority stake here, and look where that brought us. So
who was
James,
named Maria? Was there anybody named Maria? Why do I have Maria in my brain?
There is no Maria. No Maria. And
do you know
at the Wikipedia says at the last sentence here, as a presumably oblivious Yaya offers Abigail work as her assistant, Abigail prepares to attack her with a rock. So even Wikipedia agrees that Yaya was oblivious to the attack in the moment. So maybe I misread the movie.
Perhaps.
But I'm not going to admit that yet.
They shot the whole yacht scene in 9 days.
It's impressive.
Really?
I could imagine just shooting the night of the dinner.
The dinner.
In 9 days, just because of the logistics of all of that. I know Zach's seen Force Majeure. Kyle, have you seen Force Majeure?
I have seen Force Majeure, yes.
Okay. Have you seen The Square?
I have not.
Zach?
I
have
found
you watched The Square?
Go ahead, Zach.
Of course I've seen The Square.
Okay. Kyle, you need to see The Square, I would say.
Is this okay? So Force Majeure, I found a little too, I don't know, staid for me. It was a little
boring,
rigid, maybe.
Like emotionally rigid, or like, what do you mean?
I don't know. It wasn't like this movie hit that right level of satire, where it's not Don't Look Up, where we're just hitting over the head with it, but it's not too subtle. Maybe I found Force Majeure too subtle.
Zach,
like I got it. I got what was going on, but I just felt like they kept having the same conversation over and over again after the faux avalanche happened.
Gotcha. Well,
And
I
it
mean,
didn't really go anywhere for me. So
that's the problem, is he committed the unpardonable sin, and there weren't any amount of conversations that were going to change that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He thought it would, and it became clear over the course of the movie that it's just never going to be the same after that.
Yes, I guess I just found it boring that they kept having the same conversation. Like, okay,
Sure.
so
Zach,
I got it there.
The Square is definitely not as heightened as Triangle of Sadness, but would you say The Square is a similar movie?
Yeah. It's
Like,
for
what is
sure.
it? What is The Square sending up? Like art?
The art world, yeah.
The art world.
Okay.
Yeah.
The art world, but it's not as heightened as Triangle of Sadness.
Mhm.
But
Not
The
as
Square-
heightened, but
You're right.
it also it has Elizabeth Moss,
I do like her.
and it has one incredible scene.
There's like one, even if you don't like the movie, you'll have wanted to see this one scene.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
It'll-
pretty
it'll-
sure the
Just
It'll
for the
have been worth
tension
it.
of it. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the Square's on my watch list, but if not, I will add it.
Well, bump it up. Does he have any others? Those are the only 3 I know, but maybe he has others. He
There's
does have others.
Yeah. Play, Involuntary,
Mhm.
and the guitar or something.
He got his start with skiing films.
Yeah, Force Majeure.
No, like literally films of people skiing, like boring old skiing films.
Have you watched a skiing film? Because when they're well done, they are not boring.
For sure. I watched a snowboarding film that was like amazing. The cinematography was like
Was that-
insane.
Was that Art of Flight?
Maybe.
Because that's like the one.
It's very possible because I don't normally watch snowboarding movies, but somebody recommended it to me.
Was there like a moment where it's like a GoPro and the guy is snowboarding down what's like a crevasse that's as wide as a snowboard with like just rocky sides and rocky mountains on either side?
I mean, it's been a while, but
Okay,
it is Art of Flight.
Art of Flight. Yep.
I'm assuming. I've definitely seen Art of Flight according to Letterboxd, so I'm assuming that's the one because I can't think of another snowboarding movie I've seen.
That's like probably the one that people have seen if they don't watch other snowboarding skiing movies.
Yeah. Anything else with Triangle of Sadness that we have to say? Anybody, after we've talked about it, bumping up their score? I mean, I can't. I already gave it a 5, but
I mean, this could be a 4.5 on a second watch.
okay.
I'm not saying but it's definitely a 4. It's not going down. That's for sure.
All right. That's it for this episode. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time. Until then, bye.